Oh, friends, family, and the void that is my followers. Proceeding forward with more reading of the Cinder doc response. We fix this over here. Part 4. Right, and where I officially left off was I was almost finished with Cinder's third index of this, and I'm probably going to crack into some of Nanolith's this section. However, it is late, so I'm probably going to only read a little bit of it, but let's see how far I can get into this. As a note, I do find it interesting that there's only like one or two people who are still reading or looking at this document. Um, I'm sure that most people have already gotten a quote unquote summary or a quote unquote reading from their preferred streamers. It's fine. I mostly am reading this for myself and just streaming it for everybody else to review over my shoulder. Once I finish with this part of the document, I'm also probably going to stop with most of my commentary. Um, we've gotten past the introduction part. Once this is finished, we're getting into uh, Cinder's um, evidence. Once we go into the index sections after the apology. So yeah, I feel like it's most prudent to just read those unbiasedly. I still do want to get more into a meandering of shylily reviewing some of her video and commentary. I actually got permission from Mitsu Hana. I'm probably always saying that name wrong, but it's okay. I got permission from Mitsu Hana to use their video to largely demonstrate the uh, where the two videos are different from her original live stream to her edited release video. So I want to make sure this is picking up audio correctly. Hopefully there won't be an echo. I'm sorry if there is. Let's see if I can get this. Test, test. Okay, it is. All right, it's picking up audio. All right, so getting into it now. Cinder start in this part. Cinder says, "I don't know what they think I did against them, other than what I list above, or where these ideas came from, or what rumors they were hearing about me, or how my friends collectively agreed this must have been the case after everything we've done and shared with each other. I absolutely could have been a much better friend, but I just can't believe every single one of them thought this little of me at a moment's notice. There were about a dozen of my friends involved before Nano's document was posted, and still not one of them said anything to me before they were posted publicly. A lot of my friendships did suffer due to where my priorities have been, especially over the course of 2024, because of my focus being overwhelmingly on work and less on my personal relationships outside of it. I neglected people I cared about, and so did Red, both online and in real life. Even my closest friends, unless it was about work, I didn't put as much energy into just talking and hanging out, but that's not to say I never did, never wanted to, or disliked them for any reason. I had my things going on, and I know they had theirs. When I wasn't streaming or working on something, I'd be isolating or hanging out with Red to decompress, and I didn't have the energy to socialize. I'll relate in that. I tried to plan collabs with my friends as often as I could. and it was a way to hang out while still appeasing my content brain. Interesting. My collabs with my friends were made into YouTube videos, but to say that I was using them for that, as if countless other VTubers don't do the same thing, is crazy. I have a friend that comes over like once a week, and I like to play video games with them, and I've been starting to record those sessions with them, posting it online. I do it because I enjoy playing games with them. I just so happen to be able to also post the video so that we can all enjoy it. There's some videos I haven't posted because I accidentally say use their name and they don't want me to. So I can absolutely understand that. As a secondary benefit, the stream just so happens to also be enjoyed by other people. Makes sense. But to say that I was using them for that, if countless other VTubers, is crazy. When I was traveling to see my friends, all I wanted to do was hang out and spend as much time together as I could. And it was the happiest I was. Red and I always loved, valued, looked out for, and appreciated our friends, even if we didn't show it as often as we should have. I'm sorry to those of my friends who I haven't given the time they gave to me. I'm sorry for those I haven't spoken to in a long time for no other reason than my own negligence. And I'm sorry to my friends that I only focused on work with and didn't spend enough time being your friend outside of it. Okay. The business mindset, that's what the section's titled. Red and I slowly became more closed off and neglectful of people over the past couple of years, but especially throughout 2024, focusing more and more of our time and energy on this career. Work became almost 24/7 for us, never taking a break. It was our job, our hobby, and almost all we talked about. We loved what we did, but we did both became consumed by the content grind. Our work-life balance became non-existent. We were going and going and going all day, every day, and as two-person team working to an obsessive degree. We were always trying to do more and with more people all the time. Everything became about doing bigger things, achieving more, accomplishing more, growing bigger, launching more cool things, having more opportunities, while keeping up with at least 4 to 5 streams a week. Our problem wasn't greed, like it was claimed, it was ambition. Ambition that was wearing us too thin to keep up with everything. But it was never enough to take a step back and relax. We were always looking ahead, always had to be progressing, and never stopped to appreciate where we were or the people around us. The money was nice, but it's never been the driving factor for anything we did. It was an indicator of a peaceful project, successful, an indicator of a successful project, event, or merch drop that anyone understood. The majority of what I've made and spent went back into my work, okay? Or towards the house my dad was building. I released a lot of merch. I do call that before a lot of this stuff went out. Cinder was talking about apparently she was in the basement of a home that her family was building. Uh, and some people speculate that that's part of the reason why she was delayed in some of this response because she was also focusing on trying to be there to support and help her family with building this new house. And that's freaking awesome that they were able to build a home in 2025. That is such an achievement. I don't know if Cinder was involved in making that achievement happen, but that is incredible to hear of a family, her parents particularly, a family that is building homes for themselves. It's just like, wow, that's the dream. uh, I've released a lot of merch, and it's something Red and I have both been passionate about. Coming up with releasing cool new merch products is one of the most fun and fulfilling things to work on. And being on new products like a drink flavor or trading card game was super exciting to us. It was always about launching cool things for my community over the money it made. I've turned down merchandise opportunities and many more sponsorship opportunities than I've ever accepted, only taking on those I really wanted or had a strong interest in. Even though a lot of them were paying very well, being a greedy, money-hungry person has been falsely projected onto me. I've never been all about the money for either of us. It has never been all about the money for either of us. One instance, it One instance I may be called out for regarding this was during my Heaven Hound model debut. During my lore video, I had an intermission where my chat needed to fill a gold bar on screen with bits to progress the video. It was the easiest way for me to implement interactivity into the debut, and my chat having direct involvement by cheering me on was important to the story being shown. The motivation wasn't to have people give me money for the sake of it. This mindset got myself and my career to where it was, but it took over our lives to an unhealthy degree, leading to the deterioration of our health and relationships with people. Being canceled and away from work gave us the time to address this problem in our personal lives. For example, I have my own dog now who has been keeping me busy. I've gotten back into cosplay after not working on my nihilister build for months. I've been trying to lead a healthier lifestyle and I've been going to the gym regularly, despite finding it difficult to be motivated about things since April. I've been making changes so I don't fall back into the same unhealthy work mindset I was in. I can understand that. Uh, I went through some hard times at one point for sure, and when I got out of it, all I wanted to do was curl up and sleep. I didn't want to do anything else. I was just done with the world for a little bit. I just wanted to let it pass by for a while and just sleep. Eventually, after several months, I found myself more at peace and I started trying to actually do things again. Went out for walks to try and get myself motivated and moving, started exploring restaurants, started trying to work back into martial arts. Eventually, after a good year and a half, I started doing working out again. It started off small. I would do go to a bar, something, whatever, anything weighted, and just start moving it, lifting it up, lifting it above my head, whatever I could do. I just started 20 pounds, 10 pounds, 5 pounds. It didn't matter what it was. I would just started moving it, getting myself moving and into the act of exercising, even if it felt tedious and pointless. I would do it just for a little bit, even if it was just a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I would just take a moment to do that act. And eventually I started getting into 50 pounds. And eventually I started getting into actual exercising equipment. Uh, the Easy Curl bar, I started using that as a sort of uh, bench press. Yeah, bench press. Started lifting it up off my head, started lying back, moving it, got a little creative, flipped it on its side, move it around, things like that. Got myself into the act of doing actual exercises after almost a full year of working myself into the motions of exercising. And it took another 6 months for me to finally get to the point now where I'm doing 10 overhead reps of the easy curl for like lifting up my head, 100 pounds just going above my head. Uh, Occasionally, I'll do like I'll put it on the ground, I'll lift it up. I've actually started doing actual bench pressing. I'm probably at 140 now. A lot of people don't think that's a lot. A lot of people talk about, oh man, I'm bench pressing 200 pounds. I'm bench pressing 400 pounds. Oh my gosh. And you think you're tough. It's like, okay, I'm healthy though. I am comfortable now. I'm doing what works for me. and I'm taking it at a pace that works for me. So I absolutely understand that. You get so caught up in something and things collapse, and it feels like, why? But then you have all this time and you feel, well, I could either do nothing or eventually I could start doing something again. And you just take steps, whatever steps works for you. So it's awesome that Cinder's working on those things now. That she's finding things to live for. She's mending herself and things between herself and other people, and she's working on improving her health and life again. It's very beautiful. Competition. In my apology, I said I'm disgusted with myself for buying into the narrative that my friends were competition. She said that in her apology. I just learned about all this myself, and there could have been so many other friends affected by the narrative that things always had to be competitive. Red always considered everyone our competition, including my friends. I understood and agreed with his reasoning below. It did it didn't change anything between my friends and I didn't treat them any differently because of it. The only person I became directly competitive with against was Silvervale, and that wasn't right of me. This now is commentary from Red. Red, the content creation sphere is massive, and the VTuber sphere is a fraction of that with its own audience. Content creation sphere is massive. The VTuber sphere is a fraction of that with its own audience. Everyone is always doing something, launching something, playing something, and it's a constant race of relevancy. Whether you want to look at it that way or not, it's the nature of the industry. Part of the reason why we were always working on new things, releasing bigger things at a faster and faster rate was to stay competitive and in the space. Competitive in the space. In general sense, everyone was competitive, competition. Friends, other VTubers, and other content creators. At the same time, that anyone and everyone could be considered competition, there were also collaborators, co-workers, and partners. And that's all business. A lot of companies, they absolutely work that way. They, while like Apple and Microsoft, they have absolutely been the greatest competition for each other for the longest time. However, Apple would not exist if it wasn't the fact that at some point Microsoft bailed Apple out. Apple went to Microsoft saying, "Hey, we're not going to survive. We need some help." And Microsoft gave them a loan that put them back into the business. And despite the fact that the two are a competition, they have been the greatest grinding stones against each other throughout most of Apple's career. So that's absolutely makes sense. Same with PlayStation and Xbox. That's still Microsoft and Xbox, but those two have been competition for pretty much as long as Xbox has been out. And the two constantly grind off each other. But then at the same time, there's a lot of times where it is too profitable or otherwise too logical for them to not make collaborative efforts. Like there was times with Soul Calibur, which released on both Xbox and PlayStation, and you would have exclusive characters depending on which console system you used it on. I think it was like Yoda on Xbox or something like that, and Zelda on PlayStation. I might have that backwards, but yeah, no, absolutely. You can simultaneously be competition for each other, and you can be collaborative and cooperative. That's why the term frenemies exists. Uh, the end goal was about staying relevant and in people's minds and making sure our projects could succeed alongside anything going on at any given time, while also topping our own things we've done in the past. At no point was this view ever motivation or an excuse to hurt, take advantage of, or put down creators around us, especially friends. This is a business, it's a job, but keeping the business aspect of things in mind did affect the way I saw our friendships with people or the way I treated them. They were my friends too, and we both cared about them, supported them, and helped them out when they needed it. I've always had the backs of the people closest to me. The only people I've ever considered as direct competition in negative sense were people either we had something against or they had or did something against us and were working with artists important to us. I mean, that makes sense. When your competition starts poaching your employees, you're going to start thinking, oh shit, we need to do something about that. It's logical. By 2025, this was only Silvervale from how she acted towards Cinder for years. Bow after what I thought she did to us and our other friends in December of 2024, but only until sometime after my deal with Nano in January 2025, potentially soon to be Lily, by the way she was treating Cinder and coincidentally getting a model from Nanolis at the same time. It was wrong of me to fill the way, especially towards Bao, and I'm sorry. I think it was legitimate. I think it definitely should have been more openly communicated, but I think that for the most part, his perspective was legitimate. Here, I want to address the people Red and I hurt. This is Cinder again talking. Earlier, that was content creation sphere all the way down to towards Bao, and I'm sorry that was all red. So now I'm back down to Cinder's writing. Cinder says here I want to address the people Red and I hurt that don't have a larger section in this document. Tricky, she mentions Tricky here. My friends Red and I traveled to Japan last year, about a week into our trip around the country. We arrived in Tokyo for the last few days there. Red, Tricky, and I were all talking about going to the Godzilla store the night we arrived, but other plans left us with no time to go. The next morning, Red and I were up super early and were ready to leave the hotel around 8 or 9 a.m. We waited in our hotel room for about an hour without hearing from Tricky at all. Because we only had a few days left in Japan, Red and I wanted to make the most of our remaining time. We were around friends all week and didn't have much, if any, time alone together in Japan either. The other half dozen of us there either had their own plans or were still sleeping too. There were other friends staying at the same hotel as Red, Tricky, and I, so instead of waiting around for Tricky to wake up, we selfishly chose to go out into the city and to the Godzilla store without her. By the time Tricky was awake and ready to leave the hotel, Red and I were across the city and didn't go back to get her. We only met up with her towards the end of the day when everyone reconvened somewhere. Red and I are sorry to Tricky for leaving her behind, hurting her, leaving behind and hurting her. We've always been there for her, especially when we've traveled together. We didn't think she would be left completely alone with how many of us were together in Tokyo. But we still should have waited for her instead of going off on her own. She was one of our best friends, and we're both so sorry. I also tried to reach out to Tricky, particularly. Of all the people from these documents, um, I'm not sure exactly why Tricky, but I felt like it would be good to reach out to Tricky to see if there was any concerns or anything that might not that shouldn't need to be that shouldn't be said, or things that Tricky would like to be said. Now, to be fair, Tricky didn't respond to that. Kind of makes sense. I mean, some rando asking them about it. There's no reason why they should respond, but I'm just expressing that I did try to reach out to Tricky about it and I got no response. So this is the entirety of the context we have with regards to what happened with Tricky. A few people seem to be under the impression that Tricky was one of the people that was undercut or betrayed or used. I can't remember exactly what they said. I actually don't feel like looking it up, but some people felt like Tricky was put on the same level as Silvervale at one point, which did not make much sense. One moment. Okay. Um, just finished the tricky part. Cottontail. 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 I'm sorry to Cotton for the way I've avoided her and turned down collabs together for a situation that had nothing to do with me. I thought I was going, I thought I was being a good friend to someone I was close with, but it was unfair to her to treat her that way. I did not agree with how Red included our name in his deal with Nano, and I wouldn't have let him if I knew about it, regardless of how I felt about her at the time. And then Red adds a commentary to this. It was wrong of me to ask Nano not to work with Cotton. It was spur of the moment thing, and after hearing about the situation she was involved with, and I took it upon myself to do what I thought was right by another friend. Cotton's always been nice to me personally, and she didn't deserve that. Sorry. And then it's back to Cinder talking. Cinder says here, next Nixu deleted her tweet with her talking about me. She shouldn't have, because she was right. I was going to include it here for reference, but I've left it out because of what she wrote in it. So instead, I've summarized the situation below. And her summary is that second, I don't want any kind of public reaction to this. I really do not want to appear on videos or similar. I do not want my case being used as an excuse to put more hate into it. I just want to share and let it out of my chest. I'll probably delete it in the end. Let's see if I can bring up anything about Nixu. Mm, that's cool. I'm gonna check that out in a minute. Check that as well. Mm, no idea who Barroot is. Okay, I'll read that later. Check Nixu out later. I don't see anything particular about Nixu though. I did say that she deleted it. Aru, Mishu, Mom. All right, go back to Nixu. Or Maya AF. It's an artist that reached out to me via email about making artwork in exchange for showing it off and giving a shout out to her Patreon on Steam stream. I hadn't seen the email, but she made a tweet laying out her terms, tagging me in it. I messaged her that I was interested. I put her in contact with Red, and he handled things from there. Through Red, we made our agreement. It wasn't until she had a large portion of the sketch finished when I had changed my mind about our agreement and didn't want to do it anymore. That's not ideal. Definitely not ideal. I don't know what was going through my head or what was my reason for this, but I told Red to call it off. Red tried to make it seem like there was a miscommunication somewhere to save face for me, but it was really because I was being unprofessional. He talked to me and I agreed to follow through with the art showcase and shout out on my stream. However, I failed to follow Nizu's terms as they were agreed upon. I didn't verbally shout out her Patreon and only show the link to it that was on her artwork. I also didn't show the censored, not safe for work version of the art, but that was because I was worried about getting in trouble with Twitch. Interesting. This was an unprecedented situation I caused with an artist. No, it's not, but that's okay. Her choice of word is fine. An artist, and I've never done something like this with anyone else. I handled an agreement I made with extremely and regrettably unprofessionally. I handled an agreement I made extremely and regrettably unprofessionally. This was way out of character for me, and I'm sorry to Nixu for how I handled things and for the stress I caused her. I encourage anyone reading this to please support her and her incredible artwork. Definitely check them out. Looks like there's another name here as well. Check that one out as well. Uh, okay, so as I start this part of the section, I'm going to make a point to stop providing as much commentary. I'm going to try to do this purely on just reading it. It starts with, of course, header. Cinder's expressing nonetheless. Nano's document for reference presents a link to Nanolith's original document where she released it expressing she was no longer working for or with Cinder. And then, of course, all of the details that also entailed. And then it went into posted on April. And there's a screenshot of that tweet from Nanolith. And then expresses Nano's document claimed both Red and I manipulated, used, and dragged her into drama, whilst slandering multiple VTubers, including our friends. These documents were the basis for everything else publicly released afterwards. Documents from half a dozen people and many others tweeted their grievances. With me, it all hinged on Nano's document being posted and its validity. When I wrote my apology, I said I was not fully aware of the extent of Red's manipulation over Nano's commission decisions. When I wrote this poorly worded sentence, I hadn't seen any of these DMs. I was in a panic. I didn't think Nano would be lying about anything. But now that I've read Red's DMs myself, I can say that Nano was not manipulated, abused, used, lied to, mistreated, expected to take action over any drama she was told about, or incapable of making her own decisions regarding her commissions and clientele. She was never forced to do or not do anything, has always been in control of her own actions, and always had the ability to say no. She was met with understanding and faced no repercussions professionally or personally from either of us when she did. Nano's messages with Red were deceitfully presented to push a narrative that never happened. I don't believe Nano ever showed the full context of her messages with Red to my friends. Her claims were backed by shylily, and I believe they were misled into blindly supporting her. Nano was a close friend who we respected and was a massive part of my own success. I've only ever praised her privately and publicly. There was nothing she could do for me to hold anything against her or choose to stop working with her. Red and I always encouraged Nana to do what was best for her, not us. Red, who handled our plans with her, made sure to work around her schedule, push projects back if she needed more time on them, or take a break, and give her first priority on projects she was interested in. He trusted her, and the extent he lied to her, little lied, about the other people involved was in telling her his own genuine thoughts, observations, and experiences with them as he knew them. The same way my accusers did to the public with how they assumed how Red and I had to have operated together. The claim that Red and I worked and to sabotage projects Nano had is a lie. We both would praise her for the work she did for other people, and I've always celebrated and supported new Nano model siblings when they debuted. Even if Red has was really asking Nano to cancel every model she had, it was ultimately still her choice to do it or not. But all the blame for her actions was somehow put on Cinder. She says me. There were only four people Red ever explicitly asked Nano not to work with, and her agreement not to. With her agreement not to. The first was spite. At the start of 2023, Red asked Nano himself and told me about it after. I lied about knowing this in my apologies since it was never mentioned in Nano or Spite's documents. Bow, Cotton, and Silver were all part of their exclusivity deal in January 2025, and each for Red's own reasons. I was only ever aware of and in agreement of asking Nano not to work with Silver anymore. Red never told me about the other two, and I am not guilty of him using his free will to push his own agenda and express his own feelings to Nano. But I understand that as my manager, everything he said to her or anyone else is my responsibility, whether I knew about it or not. Although they were friends, it was unprofessional of him to talk gossip and work interchangeably. We've worked with Nano for 4 years. She is an incredible artist who I've treasured working alongside for my entire career. I put my faith in her at the start when we were both much smaller creators. She saved me from a year-long struggle to get my first model and has been with me every step of my journey since. I wanted Nano to be a part of anything she could, and I chose to make her artwork the backbone of my brand. I love and appreciate every single thing she's done for me, and I'm proud of everything I've been able to do for her. In April, I believe Nano found herself in a situation she couldn't back out of, and then chose to do what would result in the most beneficial outcome for her: hide the truth. Below are a large portion of Nano's DMs with Red and I over the past 2.5 years that show any situations brought up in Nano's documents in full context, show the relationship we had with her, how she felt about us and other people involved in everything, and any other relevant conversations that weren't included in that what was posted into the public. I've also included some of my own messages with her and some messages with other people. Some of these DMs are repeated and included in the following sections of this document. Nana's profile picture is different in some of these DM screenshots because of them being taken at different times throughout making this document. Okay, I'm gonna pause for now, and I'll pick this up later. Have a good night.